So today we are looking at strategic planning for authors, and we've called it Write the Damn Book, because as somebody who is an author coach and is also a writer, first and foremost, I'm a reader. I know that I hate really dodgy books. I don't like books that are not well written, and obviously I like to discover books. So to do that, we need to have a great plan in place to be able to find our readers and reach them. So without further ado, here we go. How does it not change? Oh gosh, this new PowerPoint on my laptop. Okay, so we're going to be looking at developing practical plans, because I'm a very practical person. I like theory, but I prefer things that when they are put into practice, because otherwise they're just lip service. And it's about supporting you on your writing journey and actually looking at how you can expand your current career or your current business, and looking at brand expansion and brand elevation and career goals. Sian is going to go through all the planning techniques that she deals with as a PMO, so that you can create the roadmap. As she said, I call it a chart. I'm a sailor girl. I know Sian is as well, but I call it a chart. And so that we can actually remove all of those feelings of overwhelm. We've got an agenda here just so that we can try and keep on track and keep to time. And we're hoping that there will be, I know that most of us have done some kind of planning before, we've done some kind of goal setting, but we hope that there'll be some new ideas in here, or just a reminder of things that we have long forgotten about in amongst life itself. So I'm going to hand over to Sian, I think. Is it, or is it me? No, she's going to go through the agenda and the objectives very briefly, and then it'll be on to myself.
So, perfect. Thanks, Dawn. And hello to everybody. And for those that don't know me at all, there's a slide on me a bit further down the pack that I can talk to you who I am. But basically today we're just going to talk you through trying to identify what a plan is, and actually what we can do to break down the basics into a plan. We're going to draw on Dawn's experience and knowledge about writing a book, and what activities you need to start to think about, in the short term and the longer term. And then I can talk through about working on your business, the author's heartbeat, give you some hints and tips. And then, as Dawn said, we've got room for questions at the end, but if you've got some as we go through, just please put it in the chat and we'll try to incorporate that into the slides as we go on. So hopefully at the end of this the session, you'll get to understand an approach to planning and helping break down those complex activities you need to do in order to create a book, and hopefully keep you motivated on track. Okay, Dawn, next slide. Yeah.
Here I am. So as it says, I am an award-winning international best-selling author, and that doesn't mean that I sold all of my books. I sold about 5 books in a really obscure category for 99 cents in 24 hours, which is a strategy that lots of authors use. Now, I've hustled my ass and I've sold a lot more than a few. I took my experience, and now that people saw the quality of the books that I was putting out, the bravery that it took for me to write about certain subjects, and how I was achieving all of these goals while sailing around the world, writing and researching books such as human trafficking and trauma, but women and throughout various cultures. I've been running my own businesses for 27 years and mentoring lots of other people to have real social justice at the heart of their leadership, and people, and encouraging them to kick imposter syndrome out the door and actually own who they are and own their voice. Because as we all know, that there is a huge aspect of society that has people pleasing, which comes from imposter syndrome and people not being confident in who they are. I've lived in over 44 countries, speak multiple languages, and I appear on a lot of podcasts and stages from around the world and running workshops. So anthropology and social justice are at the heart of everything that I do. So, and that is me. I've been in publishing, gosh, most of those 27 years, if not longer, because I was working for newspapers and the media publishing company well before that. So probably about 30 years of working in the publishing world. So that is me. And I'm also a fur baby mama. Sian, over to you.
Hi, thanks, Dawn. My career is slightly different to Dawn. We've gone different paths, although we have, as when we met a few months ago, we found out we had lots of similarities. My background is in project and program management, and over 30 plus years of working in the corporate world. You know, landed up in PMO and portfolio management, and have worked with quite a lot of the household names, delivering large pieces of transformational change into those. Literally in the last year, I've actually set up my own company called the PMO Coach, sort of offering accredited training and coaching to PMO professionals, and then latterly helping small businesses bring structure and organisation to their business. So planning is at the heart of everything I do, and I'm a planner by nature. When we were talking about putting this masterclass together, Dawn was, I wing it, and I'm going, no, I need a plan. So so we're trying, we're trying to bring our two different approaches into one, to show that actually you can use the left brain, right brain way of working and actually achieve an outcome.
So I think one of the ways we tackled that, which I think is quite relevant for us to mention here, I said to Sian, because you're the one that needs the structure and I can just wing it, you design the skeleton of the slides, and then we'll just pad it out. We'll put some meat on those bones, as it were.
Yes.
So that's how we've come up with this today, and we hope that you enjoy what we're about to share. This is, we like to have fun. I think, a lot of people take themselves and things a bit too seriously. If we're not having fun whilst we're here, then really, why are we doing what we're doing? So let's remember, one of the biggest rules is to always build fun into the plan and celebration. So let's get moving on to the next one. What we'd like you to do is actually share with us where you're at with planning. How much do you plan at work and in life? We were just talking at the beginning, before we came on, I'm putting a new plan in place to revitalize my nutrition and my exercise. Menopause has hit hard. I've had a tough beginning of the year. I need to shift a few pounds. So we've got a plan for that. I'm planning for my sailing. I'm planning for business. What are you planning for? And do you enjoy it? Do you resist it? And do your plans work well, or do they fall short? So if you can drop your comments in the chat, that would be really useful for us to know where you're all at and what it is that you'd like to really learn from us today. We'll give you a few moments.
I think when you say a plan can mean different things to different people. Sort of thing. Coming from my background, a plan is a million lines of plans of activities, especially when you're doing a large transformation work. But I don't want to put people off. I'm not going to advocate for that for this, but it's actually understanding, what do you think a plan is and how can it help you?
Okay, well, they're all a bit silent in the chat. I will be honest, I do write about 11 to 12,000 words in a day, so I'm used to typing very quickly. So some of my plans are probably a little bit crazy when it comes to other people. So we've got Jen saying set a large goal and then mini goals. So I would guess that taps into the Stephen Covey's begin with the end in mind. Where is it you want to go and how do you track back from there? Would that be right, Jennifer? Is there anybody else that would like to share? Sarah, Jennifer, Tai, and we've got Matthew in the room as well. Have any of you got some ideas that you'd like to add to that? I remember, I'll share a personal story. I remember when I was 27, I sat outside a friend's house in Derby in England, and I had a bit of a mini meltdown. And he was like, Dawn, you know what you need to do? You need to set another plan. Because what I had done is I'd made a list of everything that I wanted to achieve up until the age of 40. And here I was at the age of 27, absolutely smashed that list of goals. So have any of you got anything like that, or a plan that didn't go to plan? Okay, so we've got Sarah in the group saying, since the pandemic, I've had a tendency to plan in my head and and do in-do lists. And she does lists, I think that's meant to say. She also creates new reality collages, and what trips her up is she hasn't been good at creating structure for accountability. Yes, I hear that a lot, especially when it comes to writing, because it's like, oh, I'll just write later. You've had a busy day, you're worn out. Writing is not a very conducive thing at the end of the day. I tend to tell my authors, create before you can consume. And Jen has said, I tend to organize and have a to-do list rather than a plan per se. And Matthew puts a structure to remain focused. Okay, so we've got a few ideas there of how you guys feel about planning. Do you enjoy it? If you do, put a yes. If you don't, put a no in the chat. Sarah enjoys her planning. Okay.
Who doesn't love a plan? Who doesn't love planning?
Hannah from the A team loves it.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, life has a way of throwing a curveball at us, Jen.
Yeah.
I hear you on that one. Yeah. Yes. Curveballs are an amazing thing. Some of them, they're just a really gentle curveball, but then there are some that make you feel like a mosquito hitting an Australian Mack truck. So yeah. I think we've got enough there, don't you, Sian, for us to
I think so. Yeah, we can go on to the next slide. Thank you for people. Yes. Thank you for putting things in the chat.
Okay, so let me just move it on. I think I've got the
you've got control. Yeah. So
you, Sian.
I know Jen works in project management, and I think Matthew does as well. So I might be preaching to the converted here, but I just want to put some simple ideas around planning down and actually trying to get people to get a structure, sort of thing. So for me, a plan is just literally breaking down the basics, sort of thing, and actually understanding what you want to achieve. I want to try and keep it very simple, especially for things, because it can get overwhelming, sort of thing. So for me, simplicity is key for a plan, sort of thing. Different people plan at different levels, and what my job is not to tell you what level to plan to, it's whatever works for yourself. If you want to keep it very high level with minimal milestones, that's absolutely fine. If you want to go down to the nth degree, that's fine as well. Just bear in mind, if you do go down to the nth degree, a plan is only as good as you keep it up to date, sort of thing. As soon as you finish a plan, it is out of date. So you do need to make sure that you can keep that up to date. Also, a plan, you can do different approaches. If you're working within sort of the project management environment, you might be going, okay, you've got a drop dead date, so you know that date and you work backwards in order to try and work out what activities you need to do in order to hit that date that you've been given. Another way of doing that is actually going, okay, I've got blank blue sky in front of me. Actually, if I think logically of all the activities I need to do, give them realistic timescales, then that can give you your end goal and date as well, sort of thing. So depending on circumstances and what you want to achieve, you can plan forward, you can plan backwards, as long as you make sure that you've got the right activities and actually what you're doing for each of those and setting realistic timescales. I mentioned milestones a little bit earlier, sort of thing. So again, you just need to understand what are those crucial activities that you need to concentrate on. So for maybe writing a book, it's those end of chapters, sort of thing. Have I got to written to an end of chapter? If you're planning, you're doing a chapter a week, and I'm not sure if that's realistic or not, Dawn can be able to tell you that. But if you're planning on a chapter a week, then end of chapter complete will be a milestone within your overall plan. So those will become your progress markers, because you don't want to track everything in your plan. You want to track those key milestones. And when I speak about activities in your plan, the term is called a work breakdown structure. So basically you are then saying, actually, in order to do my writing strategy for book, I need to do all these activities within that, and then all those activities sit within that writing of the book breakdown structure for that particular activity. Again, relating back, you know, into organizations, you know, you can go, actually, I'm creating a bit of software. I need to be able to design it. I need to be able to test it. I need to be able to put it into plan. So each of those will all have their own individual work breakdown structures and the activities involved in actually creating that particular end product. I can go down, I can talk chapter and verse forever and ever on all of these things, but I wanted to make sure that you understand the basics of a plan and then how it all can hold together, because when we go on to the next slide, Dawn can talk through the various activities that will sit within various work breakdown structures. Does everything make sense from that particular slide? I haven't gone down down to the nth degree, but hopefully that will give you enough to making sure that you can break down the basics into those smaller chunks of work, like Jen said in the chat, so that you can get to that end goal.
We have Sarah, who's saying that she doesn't think her plan is well or realistically structured. And I think that is something that does get to quite a few of us. You know, we've got these desires, we want to achieve these big things. We think that some of us think we're absolute superheroes, whereas some of us don't actually give ourselves enough credit. And so I think one of the things when we're looking at breaking down the basics is actually using something that I learned a few years ago. I say a few years ago, it was right at the beginning of my career, about 30 years ago, you know, breaking things down. I mean, I was, Sian mentioned going to the nth degree. My whole diary was planned out in 5-minute increments for 3 months ahead. I knew exactly where I was, what I was doing. I planned to be spontaneous. And I was like, well, that's not very spontaneous, is it? To plan to be spontaneous, but I needed the structure because I was building so much. I was renovating a house, I was building a business, I was, you know, there was a lot that was going on. And I think that, you know, the simplicity being key is absolutely crucial and vital at this point. So one of the things that we're going to do is now move on to the next slide, because
just before you do, sorry, Dawn, Sarah, you know, sort of thing, I think then it's a question then if you need to think about what are the outcomes you want, you know, sort of thing, and then actually say what are the ones that, and then what are the activities I need to do to get to those outcomes, you know, sort of thing. You know, and as I said, you can then break them down into more manageable chunks, and then you can actually see a pathway through. But we'll come on to that in a you know, as part of this presentation. We'll come on to that in a bit more detail, and I do have a template that we can give to you so you can to help you do that.
Excellent. Shall I move on now?
Yeah, sorry, Dawn. Yeah.
No, don't apologize. Never apologize. Okay, so to look at the short-term planning for authors, one of the things that does trip up a lot of people is they listen too much to other people about what is realistic and what isn't. Now, I don't believe in the word realistic, because my capabilities and my visions and understanding of, say, the quantum realm and what's achievable is very different to somebody else's. Realistic is just another benchmark. It's just another label or another level of, you could say, oppression or on somebody else. It's them telling you what their limitations are or what their abilities are. So I tend to look at book planning as like, okay, well, what is it that you want to write about? And is there a key date in mind? So if, for example, one of my books was about what it was like living in Egypt during the Egyptian uprising, did I want to release the book on the 25th of January? Okay, because that was the anniversary of when the Egyptian uprising started. Well, I could do, but as the publishing world is kind of burnt out in the last quarter of the year and tends to take a bit of a break in the January, the likelihood of me releasing a book on the 25th of January was quite slim. So I had to pick another date involving the Egyptian uprising, such as the Million Man March, which was beginning of February. So again, when you're looking at writing your book and you're making a plan, you do need to consider the publishing world. It's not just about yourselves. and what's going on in your life, you need to understand where and how busy the publishing world gets to, because the publishing world is very much geared around their Christian calendar and working up to Christmas and the new year. And like I said, so in November and December, everybody's pushing the books for Christmas sales, Christmas sales, Christmas sales. January, it's recovery. No one really does anything in that month. So you really need to start looking at maybe releasing books at the beginning of February onwards. Then your next kind of big push in the publishing world is going to be your July, August sales. If you are writing for fiction or you're writing fictions or memoir biographical based book, because then it's something that people can take on their holidays. Now, I'm not going to say summer or summer holidays, because if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, it's a different, they're going to be your winter holidays as opposed to your summer holidays. So again, looking at which hemisphere you're in, because these things do matter. Because if you're going to be writing something that's a slow burn book, maybe you want to be releasing it or doing a push in the Southern Hemisphere when it's in winter, so people can really snuggle up with your book on a cold and rainy day. Again, then do a push in the Northern Hemisphere for a cold, rainy day, so that people in the Northern Hemisphere can read it during those. But then if you're in Britain, you just release it any time, because it's always bloody cold and raining, unless you're in a heat wave. So again, people might think that, these are, a lot of people forget to think about the Northern Hemispheres in their planning, but it's actually really quite crucial. And also look at where you are. If you're writing an academic book, then you really need to be starting to push your academic book in around the March time, when a lot of schools are doing a lot of looking. They want to be putting in orders for around about the May, June time, ready to receive the books during July and August, ready for the new year. Again, businesses tend to do a lot of business planning. I mean, effective business people, they're always planning. They're planning out their next quarter all the time. Is there really a good time to write a book on business? Well, if you're writing a financials book, you might want to do it before the end of the financial year, and that would be the tax year within your country. So again, looking at that, then you know when to release it. So again, there's something to look at. And when I'm saying looking at the outline of your chapters, I tend to advise people, just get your key points down. What is it you want to write about? And how are you going to make sure that you've got the support to do that? And when I do a chapter outline, I tend to just write bullet points that are underneath those chapter headlines. So you end up with like title, chapter, and then subtitle, and then subjects. And then it's about, have I got the research for this? And remember, when you're planning for the research, you need to remember that you're relying on other people and their schedule. So it might be that somebody is, if you're looking for research within academia, and this is macadamia, in academia, or you're waiting for some research from courts or the government, they're going to take a lot longer to get to you because of the amount of red tape than asking an individual. But again, looking at what they're doing, and this really does play out in a lot of the different areas, whether it is the current book planning, whether it's the marketing strategy, the selling strategy, and the future opportunities. Because when you're looking at getting legal permissions, it might be when you're doing the sales into another country, the legal parameters of selling in another country, also their timeframes. I've worked a lot in the Arab world, and instead of calling it Greenwich Mean Time, we call it Generous Muslim Time, because there's a lot more of a relaxed feel, very much like the Spanish, mañana, bada bukra, everything is going to happen when it happens. And, looking at legal parameters, do you need to get copyright permissions? How long is that going to take? You might get it from the author, but are you going to be able to have to wait for the publisher to get it back? And if that publisher's got a book that you're writing, or book similar to what you're writing, because it does happen, are they going to be unethical and delay sending you the copyright while they push their book first? Again, these are all things you need to consider when planning. And these are, we've called it short-term planning, but this is all of the things that you need to take into account when you're doing your initial plans. what is it, what's happening in each hemisphere, what's the calendar like, which calendar are you working towards, and how many people are you relying on, and in what industries are they working in, and what parameters are they working through. And then with your marketing strategy, there are some people that do not work to a timescale less than 18 months. These tend to be the bigger publishing houses. These are the people that, you know, they have everything to go. It's like they're doing cataloging, and there's a huge number of people. Whereas a smaller boutique publisher like ourselves, there's a much smaller team. We get things done a lot quicker. We also have, we still do a lot of run up depending on the client. And also one of the key things to remember in your planning is what's happening in your life. How prepared are you? Because how prepared are you for your book to fly? Because if your book takes off, how prepared are you for that overnight success? I've worked with authors that you'll never know I've worked with. You'll never see their book because it wasn't about them writing a book for fame and prestige and, you know, deep market penetration. There have been others, we're going full out wild, and, you know, the contacts. So that needs a much longer plan. So again, it depends on your own comfort zones. How well do you feel when you're working in the media? How organized are you? How much time can you take away from your family, whether they be the human variety or whether they be the fur baby variety? You know, you've got to consider all of these in your plan. So that would be the first part of the plan that I would say get together. Sian, have you got any questions or anything that you'd like to add to that?
If you're stuck, or you know, sort of thing, you know, you've planned out your book, and you know the first few chapters are going well, you know, but then you hit a wall, you know, sort of thing, and then think, what sort of advice would you give somebody, you know, in terms of like, okay, how do I get the rest of the book back on track, or what do I need to do to get myself back into that way of writing?
Well, book a call with me, first of all. This is not a sales presentation, by the way, everybody. This is us just giving you value and sharing our expertise, because our goal is to make sure that people are getting the support they needed to get the success they needed. So when people get stuck with writing, it's either because there is a fear of what they're writing about. Now, it could be that what they want to write is going to expose family members. It could damage their career. They might be writing about corporate espionage. It might be that they've got a fear of maybe the grammar police, as I call them. A lot of it tends to come from there, or they're not quite sure of an area of the character's development or the landscaping. So, for example, when people, having lived in lots of different countries now, when I'm reading a book, I'm like, oh my God, I know exactly where that is. And then I've read a book, I'm like, that doesn't work because that road does not connect to that road. And you kind of think, I wish that person had have done more research. But because there's also, people are afraid of what the haters online, the keyboard warriors, are going to say. And it's about going, okay, what is it that's stopping me? Asking ourselves, doing some journaling. What is it? Am I writing this book for others? Am I writing this book because it needs to be written? My soul is saying, write the damn book. Is it, I need to get this out of me, as in it's a healing journey? Because depending on why you're writing it will depend on why you're getting stopped. If it's a trauma-based book and it's more memoir biographical, or you're writing to expose an injustice, it might be that you need more research, you need more information, or you need a mentor to just guide you through maybe the legal issues or the geographical, or the, let's just say you're exposing corporate corruption in financial world. Maybe you need more financial knowledge, but you don't know who to ask, so that's what's stopping you. It could be a whole host of reasons what's stopping you, but it 9 times out of 10 it comes down to fear of rejection, or fear for your life, or because you need to do some more research, or you're just not really wanting to write the book. You're just doing it because you feel you have to.
Thank you. You know, I know you and I have both spoken about writing a book, because I personally don't think I have a book in me, but actually the more time I spend with you, the more time I'm thinking I might actually have one, sort of not a fiction book, but more around planning and businesses and structure and things like that. So more of a business book. So you've given me so many ideas. For me, it's then finding the language and the right way of framing things, for me, and then actually, do I have anything of interest to say that's going to be, that's going to take a whole book rather than just a couple of pages?
See, that's one of the biggest fears that a lot of people have. Why should I write this book? Who am I to write this book? What will anybody read it other than my mum? And the languaging, because a lot of the subjects I write about are quite high profile, highbrow, academic. But what I do is I alchemize that language, and I write my books so that my dad would love them, and he only reads carp fishing magazines. So if I can get my dad to read a book about anything, because like I said, it's normally a magazine, Carp World Today, I think it's called, or Carp Today, and Fishing Today. As long as it's got that subject, my dad is interested, but he will read my books, and he won't read them just because I've written them. It's because I presented the language. And I said, I don't care whether you read them or not, but because I'm not attached to them reading it, they then want to read it. And it's about not being attached to who reads it, just believing that the right people will find your book. So once you've dealt with those fears, then the selling strategy should really fall into place as well. Because once you've got over that writing, the fear of the writing and who's going to buy it and how do I market it, I'm not a TikToker. I'm not going to go on TikTok and do the things she says today. Might be different next week. But again, it's like depending on I always say go with what your soul knows. What is your soul guiding you to? Don't listen to everybody else. Do what feels right for you. If you know when you're meditating that you're being guided to promote or write your book in this particular way, write it that way. Because it's then down to your author coach, your editor, and your publisher to help with the rest of it. Just write. Forget about the grammar, forget about the spelling, forget about all of that. Just write, because soul knows. And write in the morning.
So it's getting it out there, and then you can put, I know we're talking about structure here, but then you can, once you've got it all out, you can then put it in an order, and you can make sense of it afterwards.
Yeah. Okay. And don't be afraid to delete stuff. I mean, I've deleted 10, 20, 30,000 word books, just deleted them. And I've written books, I wrote my second book, which was an international bestseller, 77,000 words in 7 days. The Sacral series, they're only 50,000 words. I wrote those in a week. I think they roughly take me about 4 to 5 days, but I plan to write them. I never have notifications on. So again, this is part of your writing strategy, but also your marketing. You just say to people, don't expect to hear from me for this week. I'm only going to share with you my word updates. And I take myself away to a hotel or to somewhere where I can, for me personally, I need the ocean, I need a swimming pool, I need to be in a hotel that brings me room service, that can bring me somebody to give me a massage at the end of each day, because when you're writing there all day long, you need no distractions. You just need to write. And you need to, and me personally, I need to jump in the pool and, or go for a walk along the beach, or go sit on the beach with a fire at the end of the day, just to
clear your mind. Yeah.
Clear my mind, or to process what I've just written and what needs to come next, and allow it to come next.
Cool. And can I ask one more question?
Sort
of thing. So if you're trying, if you're writing a first book or whatever, and you've still got a full-time job and whatever, what tips would you give people who are trying to write that first book, around everyday life?
One, stop trying and start doing, or start being. one, have enrollment conversations with people. So, you know, especially if you are working for a larger company, or you are working for a small company, have a conversation with your boss. Say, right, okay, I really want to write this book. You know, I was just wondering, can I take some, you know, can I work out a rearrangement of hours so that I come in a little bit later so I can do some writing in the morning when the family have gone to school and gone to their job. So maybe you want to come in, you know, a couple of hours later and work later, or maybe you'll come in at the weekend and do some. Have an enrollment conversation with your family and say, look, you know, I'm going to be writing this book. It's really important that I have the time to do that. Can I get your support? You know, and if you've got a certain job that you do in the house, delegate that. You know, create a space in your home where that's your writing space. It doesn't have to be a whole room to yourself. Me personally, I wake up at stupid o'clock in the morning. It's probably a good job I'm single, to be honest, because oh, I wake up and I'm like, you know, that would be a disruption to somebody else. So like if I was with a husband, you know, or a partner, and I'd be like, okay, well, I don't want to disturb them. So you plan, and you know, you just say, well, I'm doing this. Because the thing is, when we set our boundaries and we honor our own self, we're teaching our family members to honor us. And if our boss says no, really? I don't think they're going to. Not if you have a proper conversation with them. And if they do, and they're not going to support you to grow, especially if, say, your book is going to help your career, that's a prestigious thing for your company. That's like, you know, maybe you can acknowledge them in, I mean, I call it the gratitude section. In with DBI Publishing, we call it the gratitude section rather than acknowledgements. You know, you mention them in the book, or you maybe do a special offer, or you work with them. You know, if it's a finance book or a PMO book, or, you know, it might be a legal book, maybe they can sponsor the publication of your book. Again, it's all about finding out why they're saying no or why they're saying yes, and building from that point.
Thank you. Before we move on, we've got Dawn on a roll here. Does anyone got any questions for Dawn they want to ask her?
Yeah, because like Sian, I could talk forever about books. She could talk forever.
If you do, come off mute and just ask.
Yeah.
Well, rather than have to type it.
Yeah. Sometimes, like I said, I know that writing things or articulating it, which is again is another thing, people find it difficult to articulate what they want. I'm an absolute word nerd, which is why I chose to be a developmental editor for a lot of people, because I knew that they have an amazing story or they have incredible expertise in their field, but writing may not be their thing. When you read as many books as I do and write as fast as I do, and I am a word nerd, so, and I totally own that. Okay, so there's nothing coming through the chat. So shall we move on to the next slide?
Yeah.
So I hand over to yourself.
Cool. So
hi, it's Jen. I do have a question actually.
Oh, yeah.
Hi. Regarding the short-term plan, those topics, do they all have to be planned out in that order, or do some of those run side by side actually?
And you mean these ones here?
Yeah. For example, you know, you're maybe obtaining any legal permissions. Might you go find a publisher to help you with that?
Yes, you can. And that's what a lot of the smaller hybrid companies like mine, we do. And so when I'm working with a client, I mean, it's quite interesting you asked that question, because when we were looking at the workflows in my business analyst asked me that very same question. Well, what are you working on? I'm working on this, this, and this. It goes, what, all at the same time? I'm like, well, yeah, get things done. You know, we've got a deadline to meet. But there are lots of things that you can be working on in tandem. So if you know you need legal permissions, either get your author coach or your publisher. They will help you. Also, when you're doing, so for example, with the menopause book that I wrote, we reached out to Anita Diamond, who wrote The Red Tent. We reached out to her and carried on writing. And then whilst we were doing that, going through all the editing, we're still waiting for her publisher. She's already given us written permission, but we're waiting for her publisher to come back to us. But we continued writing, and then it got to the time when we were ready to publish. And we finally get the permission from the publisher, but it was too late because we'd already gone to publication and had to edit and just rephrase it and say as in the red tent, blah, 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 blah. But there are lots of things here that you could be working on together. And if you are working with a developmental editor, you know, there'll be a lot of research that they can help you do, or they should be doing with you. And while you're writing a chapter, they'll be editing it, and you'll be working on the next one, and then they'll send the previous chapter back to you. So for example, this morning I've just spent some time editing 3 chapters. Well, I've been working on these 3 chapters for like the last week. So while Al is working on the next chapters, and now I've gone through and edited it, I've sent that back to him. And then once he's finished these next 3 chapters, he'll send them back to me. And he's also going through the edits that I gave for the first part of the book. So you can work through a lot of this simultaneously.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yes, this is more about giving you an idea of the activities you need to do, you know, sort of thing. But as Dawn says, you can start a lot of them, you know, simultaneously, and then, you know, then if you want to, you can always say, well, actually, I can't start that until I've got this back, you know, and you can factor that into your plan. But otherwise, you can say, well, actually, I can just write, and I can start to think about publishing and who I want to publish, you know, as long as you've got that activity in there, you don't forget it then.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm also a bit of a scatterbrain, as they say, or well, used to be called, that I kind of like prefer butterfly brain. So I have my plan, and then I just start going for it because it's like, oh, I've just got to do. And I really allow myself to be led by, as you can probably tell, I use quite a bit of witchy woo language. It's like, okay, I let my soul lead me. And if I get a thought, oh, you might want to think or reach out to this person or do this, it's like, okay, get that done now, especially now I'm in the menopause, because I'll forget. So again,
you put it in your plan, Dawn.
It's all in my plan, but it just means once that idea comes, it's like, for me, I'm like, okay, that idea has come to me at this time.
Yeah,
that means I need to act on it at this time. And then that gets done, and I mark it on the plan, and I mark it to a different color that it's actually in progress, like your traffic lights. And that's all being done. And I've found that when I do that, rather than waiting for a specific date, my results are a lot faster and a lot quicker, and things get done a lot quicker, because that idea is dropped into my consciousness for a reason. So I act on it.
Yeah.
So it works for me. Probably wouldn't work for other people, but yeah, it's still part of the plan. It just gets done in a Dawn fashion.
And all we're trying to do here is give you that framework, and then how you work within that framework is totally, you know, will be down to you, because different people will act in different ways, and you can't be prescriptive. You know, it's just giving that framework and guidelines to help people bring that little bit of structure, you know. And what I would say is, for any of these activities, and I know Dawn said you don't deal in realistic, but be realistic in your timeline, you know, sort of thing, because what you don't want to do is put too much pressure on yourself, you know, sort of thing. You want to be able to give yourself enough time to do the work that you think you need to do. You know, but bearing in mind, if you've got a publishing deadline, then there is a drop dead date, but everything in between can move and flex to how you're feeling and doing at that time.
I tend to equate it, and I think a lot of people have liked this. I equate it to a dance floor and the Latin dances, because you have the steps within a certain dance. You have the framework of the partner you're dancing with, but you also have the framework of the dance floor, and how you bring that flavor to the dance is down to you. So
I love that.
right.
Cool. So we talked about short-term sort of planning, and mainly just for writing a particular book, you know, sort of on this particular page, bearing in mind that obviously from the back of that book, if it is successful, you might need to think about keynote speaking opportunities, you know, sort of PR, all those things. But so the next slide, if you move on to the next slide, then please, Dawn, then we can start to think about longer term planning for authors, you know, sort of thing. Because actually, if you get your first book, you think, actually, I'm loving this, you know, sort of thing, I'm now going to do more, you know. So one of the things you can think about is actually, can you make it part of a series? And it doesn't have to be a fictional series where you continue a story. It can be, Dawn, you've done various series, you know, sort of that have that around a theme, you know, sort of thing, rather than individual books, because then you get more sales. If that's correct, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So you can do if it's 2 books. So for example, we've got the Scotland Saga duology, and that has spun out from 1 book because it was such a beast in the beginning, but because reader feedback and questions, we've decided, okay, we need to revisit this and then break it down into 2 books, so then we release it. Plus, when you're writing a book and you're putting it into a series, so I've done quite a number of books on mental health from very different perspectives. So we've got a series of books about women's transformation. We're doing one about male transformation, but then so we've got 2 series there, but then we've got the overall mental health series. So then we've got 3 series, but then we also write them as a box set or publish them as a box set. Okay, gift set, because Amazon doesn't like the word box set. Not that we only publish to Amazon. But again, it's about looking at what your revenues are. Because if I just sell 1 book, and it's how you promote your next book in your existing book. Because it might just mean you if you are writing another book or another series, you might want to revisit the initial book's typeset manuscript that you've uploaded to the publishing platform or that your publisher has uploaded, and include a synopsis or a sneak peek, the first chapter in the first book, so that you're leading, or you want to list all the books at the beginning. Excuse me.
Cool. Thank you. So there's those activities you can start to think of around, you know, a series of books, and how do you actually do that, and then actually map out any subsequent sort of outlines for those books. At the back of, you know, writing a book or you know, something, you can also then think about, you know, depending on what book, do you want to go to potential peak? God, I can't speak myself. Potential speaking opportunities, you know, and actually in your trade, your industry, or any conferences that you could think of, you know, that actually you might want to go to help publish your book and do the PR for, you know, sort of thing. So there are opportunities there of where you can go and help spread the word. Also, as part of, you know, writing a book, you might want to think about writing a newsletter, you know, in your area of expertise, you know, again, just to keep things ticking over while that book is being written, you know, sort of in the background. You might want to have a look at any partnerships or affiliate content that you might want to think about, again, depending on what subject your book is about, you know, and then doing the research that might lead to potential partnerships or affiliates that hadn't been obvious, you know, when you were starting to write that book. Think about the various author platforms, you know, that are out there, and Dawn can give us a bit more information sort of around what those are. You're one yourself, you know. Dawn has got her own author platform, you know, so she can talk about that. And then actually, now it doesn't necessarily have to be in print, you know, sort of thing. We've got so many other media that it can be done. It could be in an ebook, it can be digital, you know, it can be in a journal form. So it doesn't necessarily have to fit the norm of what a book can be, you know, sort of thing. So to start to think about those longer term possibilities that actually could bring you more revenue in, you know, or open up new audiences for your particular area. Dawn, do you want to just quickly talk about what an author platform is? Because I think I'll probably get it wrong.
Okay, so there's quite a number of them around. And again, it depends on what you mean by an author platform and how you see that. There are memberships such as like the Society of Authors, where you can actually, if you're a member of that, not only do you get some incredible benefits, and you know, if you go for the higher level of membership, which only costs you £10 more than the normal one, you get, you get your professional indemnity insurance and public indemnity. So you've got a platform such as that. You've also got something that if you're working with a smaller hybrid company, you'll tend to see that a lot of our authors are on our websites. We showcase them. When we're writing our newsletters, we always write about something that references back to one of our authors' books, and we'll go, okay, like Sian was saying, if we're writing a book about our level of expertise, I will talk about mental health issues or social justice, and I'll be looking, okay, well, let's look at some of the issues and some of the things that are a catalyst for this. And then I'll reference maybe a chapter in a certain book that we've published. So you're looking then at the newsletter and how that author platform. You've then got platforms such as Bookreads, BookBub, Readsy. There's so many of them. There's StoryGuard. Where Goodreads is more of a reader platform, and authors tend to make the mistake of getting onto Goodreads and then trying to promote their book through the other readers. And that's not a very nice way of doing it, because Goodreads, although it is owned by Amazon, it is predominantly there for readers to connect with other readers. And as a reader myself, I always think when we're doing the publishing or I'm joining a platform, how is this helping me as a reader? How is this book helping me as a reader? Okay, and I remember speaking to one of my clients. I was like, you've got to find your readers where they are. Stop thinking like as the writer or the publisher or as a business owner. Start thinking when you're reading, who reads this book? Because it could be a library, could be your author platform. It could be a university faculty that's your author platform. It could, if you're writing historical fiction, your platform is going to be attending historical events. It is joining networks that actually talk about that part of history. And again, it's like when you're thinking about readers, if you put readers first and foremost, then that will tell you where you need to be as an author. And I am somebody who much prefers a hardback book or a paperback book. I don't really listen to audiobooks. I don't even have a Kindle or an ebook reader. Not my thing. But again, it's about looking at how you read, or how the people who read your content, who are your readers? What do they do? What do they like? What reader experience do they need? It could be a literary festival. Do they go to the festivals to get them? And that's where, again, you'll meet them. That's where you'll also meet and do your partnerships and your affiliations. So that depends on what you mean by a platform and where your readers are.
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to do a catch-all.
Yeah.
So thank you. I think you've explained it.
No, I like because it allows us to extrapolate on those.
Exactly. So what we've tried to do over the last couple of slides is just to give you an indication of all the activities that sort of need to be done, sort of writing your first book and then future activities once you've got off the back of that. I don't know, I don't know if we've got any other authors in the room, but are there any activities that you think that we might have missed out, sort of thing? And then if you've got to identify, I tried to identify any further activities you might think you need to think about for current and future books. Because there's only a few of us in this mastermind, just either put it in the chat or just shout out loud, and we'll try and capture that, because I'm putting together a planning template that we're going to distribute, and if there's any new ideas added into it, I'll add them into the planning template, and then I'll send them out. So I don't know, again, from the people we've got on the call today, if there are any other activities you think that need to be included in our plans.
I'd like to see just like physically what your plan, or some examples of what your plan actually looks like graphically. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Shall I quickly share my screen, Dawn, before we can It's as if you teed me up there, Sarah. So hopefully you'll see my screen coming through. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Hang on. I think I'm sharing the wrong one. Bear with me. Hang on. That is the desktop too, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, right there. There. Can you see this screen?
Yeah.
So you can see a plan, yeah? Because it's saying I've got two screens and it's saying I'm screen sharing the wrong one. What
We
can
can see
people
the
see?
one that's got shorter term activities,
Okay,
and then
perfect.
there's
Thank you.
blue, amber,
Yeah.
green, etc.
So the activities that we spoke about on the slides earlier, I've tried to put into a overall plan. Again, I've kept this at very, very high level, you know, sort of thing. So you've got your writing strategy, you've got your research, you've got your illustrations, you've got your marketing strategy and things like that. So what you can do is if you want to, you can just put in, because here across the top, I've started from last week because I created this from last week, you know, sort of thing. I've got about a year and a half's worth of dates there. You can say, actually, I'm going to explore publishing options. I'm going to start, actually, it's not going to be until 1st of September. So that's week 8 here. So you put week 8 in here, and then actually it'll probably take me about 3 weeks. This thing will then actually create you a plan automatically, you know, sort of thing. So you can start to see how activities in here can then start to see how they look on a Gantt chart. So here, these are just made up figures and examples at the moment, but you can see then for your writing strategy and all the activities for your writing will take you from here until the 26th of January next year, based on what I put in here, you know, sort of thing, and all these, the activities and how you do it. So Jenny, you know, when you were talking about, can you do things more, you know, at the same time? Yes, you can, because you can start building up your marketing activities at the same time, you know, so you can see when things need to be done. So I've tried to keep it very, very simple. I've tried to identify what we talked about the milestones are. I've also given you examples of what each of these stand for. If you're in project and program management, there's something called a RAG status. So you can actually say if you're on track, you're behind, or you've completed it, and just by you know, saying, actually, amber means I'm at risk at the moment, but I actually might hit that deadline. You can actually put your status in as well. If you don't want it, you can just hide that particular cell, you know, sort of thing. And then you can also, if it's more than one person doing it, you can put the name in there. So again, something that's very, very simple, very high level. And again, you can just add in lines if you want to add in more activities. If you don't want to do that particular one, you just ignore it, and you can add in more dates in here. So it's a very, very simple Excel template that can help you just work through what that planning should be. And then I'm going to move on now to talk about heartbeat and how we do that. So again, we can add those activities in. I've kept them very, very high level at the moment, because depending on what your particular heartbeats are, they might be different activities. But Sarah, is that what you were asking for?
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you.
Good. Okay, I'll stop sharing now, and we'll go back to the slides, and then I'll talk through keeping a heartbeat and keeping it, you know, keeping you working towards your book. Do you want me to share, Don, or have you?
Oh, sorry. I thought you were just going to do that. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Let me. Right. Okay. So let me move that.
Here, let me.
So I minimized it rather than moving it. Technology, is great until it doesn't work. Right, let me share again. So okay, now I need to move the right. So what we also need to think about is then actually, it's all very well having a high level plan. How do we keep on track for that? Sort of thing. And actually, what do we need to do to make sure that we do the things we need to do? So what I tend to do, I create myself, mixture of 30, 90 and 6 month plus plans so that I can actually work on the things I need to focus on straight away. And it doesn't necessarily mean writing my book. It's actually all the things I need to do in order to give myself some space to write my book, sort of thing. So work out actually on a and I'll break it down to weekly on the next slide. But basically, in the next 30 days, what do I want to achieve? The next 90 days, what do I want to achieve? Yeah, sort of thing. And then making sure that you review those plans and say, actually, have I achieved that or not? And if you haven't, that's fine. Don't beat yourself up about it, but make sure then actually what I didn't do, you need to then factor into your next. So you've got a set of rolling plans, so that you're always knowing what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve. Because I think, Sarah, you mentioned in the chat something around accountability, sort of thing. This way you do keep yourself accountable, so you've got that high level tracking and high level view of what you're trying to do. As I said, it can be very, very high level. It doesn't have to go down to the nth degree unless you particularly want to do it. So make sure you have those 30, 60, 90 plus date plans in place. So I think, and Dawn was saying that if you want to become a successful author, you need to spend time on your business rather than just in it. So you are looking ahead, because otherwise it can be very easy to just get stuck into the here and now, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just more a question of, okay, every now and then I've got to lift my head up and actually know what I'm doing going forward, so you know exactly what's going to happen. So you need to schedule your regular reviews into your calendar and put them in and make sure they're non-negotiable, so that you do have appointments with yourself, so you can have a talk to yourself going, how am I doing? Where am I? Where am I against what I said I would do? What do I need to move around in order to achieve that? So it's understanding what it is you need to do, what the priorities are those actions to do, and actually making sure that you stick to that. So it's developing that constant rhythm of planning, executing, reviewing, and it's what I call a heartbeat. In corporate world, especially in the project and management space, you'll have project board, program boards, investment boards, steercos, and you have that regular heartbeat of where you need to do different things at different times and different weeks of the month, so everybody knows exactly what they're aiming towards. And I think you can do this when you're writing a book as well, keeping that regular heartbeat going. You've got the accountability checks and you've got your plans, and I'll move on to the next slide in a minute, where you can go down to weekly, then monthly and quarterly as well. So making sure that you work on your book, work on your business, work on whatever it is you need to do to move yourself forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love what you've said there, and it's about that cadence, isn't it?
Yeah.
And one of the things I really, really request that you do as well is make time for your physiology. Make sure you're out in nature, make sure you're moving. And I know that when I say out in nature, I know that some people thrive more in an urban setting than they do in the woods or by the beach or what have you. But one of the things that when you're writing and then you're working on the title checklist, you're working on the marketing strategy, you're working on a lot of it is very sedentary work. Do your yoga, go for a swim, go for a run if running is your thing. It's not mine. If you see me running, start running. Although I really need to change that story. I probably need to start running. But again, move your body, work on moving your body, because I tend to find that once I've started moving, I'm there and I'm in that sedentary, but make those plans to take a step back from the screen, get out there, go for that walk, listen to motivational or spiritual success, or look at if you do listen to audiobooks, listen to or podcasts, go and listen to one of those. Just take your brain away, because if there's anything that you're struggling with in your writing, allow your brain to rest. You need to plan to rest your brain. You need to plan to rest your fingers, because the thing is, when our hands are always in this position writing, what we need to do is bend them to this, so that we're stretching these muscles, because otherwise we're going to get arthritis. It's just something that just really came up. And always have a hand massage. Plan if you've got a really heavy writing, have a hand massage. Really massage your wrists and all your tendons. You know, self-care has to be built into your plans. Absolutely has to be. You know, writing is a very intensive, and rest your eyes. When you're always reading and researching, then writing, and then editing, and then back to the writing, your eyes get tired. That's why I'm saying step away. So in your daily plans, in your weekly or monthly plans, make sure that you're looking after your own heartbeat, and raising that heartbeat, as well as raising the wellness of your body, because it will help you go this long distance. Because when you write a book, it is a long game. It's not overnight success stories. It is not instant. There's a lot involved, and you really do need to look after your own heartbeat.
Good, thank you. And I just realized I was talking and I hadn't shared my screen, so
No, I then started sharing mine, so I was
oh, you have, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stop sharing then, because I think you
No, and I don't know what's happened now, because I was sharing mine and then it's come back to yours now, so
okay,
it's all good.
technology, eh? You might want to, because I'm just looking ahead and I haven't got your contact details on the
Scandalous,
thing I've got open.
Sian.
I know, so if I stop sharing, you share, and then so it's called teamwork.
Absolutely. Makes the dream work. Okay, so the next one, so we've got here is the author's heartbeat, which we've just gone through. And like I say, you know, it really do, when you're looking at your day, find out when is the best time for you to write. Now, I always say, create before you consume. So first thing in the morning, get up, make your tea or your coffee, go for that walk. You really get, you know, outside with the dogs, or, you know, go see the horses or what have you. And then as soon as you come back, write, because what's in your mind, you need to purge, you need to get it out. And I call it the conscious unconscious creation system, process. And it's about just doing that mind dump straight away. Don't read anything by anybody else, don't listen to anything by anybody else, don't have a conversation with anybody else. Just get up and do what you need to do for you and write. And then do a gratitude flood at the end of each day. Again, build these things into your planning cycle, so that your business heartbeat and your heartbeat, you're getting rid of all the overwhelm. You're getting that process in place. I play with the dogs, I walk the dogs, I journal, and it's about just getting that process. And there's something that never go to bed without asking your subconscious for something. So if you are blocked, make sure when you go to bed and you've done your gratitude journal, your gratitude flood, you say, okay, I'm really, I ask the universe to deliver me this. You know, who has got my money, or who is my next contact, or what's next in my book, or where am I going with this? Who would be a great ambassador for my book? Always ask the universe, or the consciousness, or God, whichever word, Gus, universe, source, covers all bases. Always ask your subconscious what and where and who is for you next. I always find that that's a very good heartbeat to actually always build into my day, because you never know who has got your money. Who has got your next client? Who has got that payday? Who has got that opportunity for you to promote and sell your book? Who is that next surprising character that pops up out of nowhere? You know, what is the alchemy of the character? It has to be part of it's something that I just absolutely believe has to be part of the heartbeat. It really does. The cadence of your day. Start it well, end it well, everything else in the middle. Just and breathe. So there you go.
Perfect. And that's a perfect segue into the next slide, actually. You know, sort of Dawn, I focused the slide more around the logical things to do, but I love the fact that Dawn has just talked about that.
The
you know, no, you know, but the emotional, you know, sort of side rather than just the logical side of things, that, you know, what gets you, you know, your I was going to say juices going is probably not the right analogy, but that fires you up.
Yeah, it is, because I think a lot of people, they're so busy hustling. And we talk about mental well-being and mental health and self-care and self-love, but really, are we filling ourselves? When was the last time any of you booked a meeting with yourself? We're all so busy booking a meeting with everybody else, but we forget to take a meeting with ourselves. We forget to we book time for ourselves. We never put ourselves on the to-do or the to-be list. And one of the biggest game changers for me, especially when you're in a funk or something's going on, you know, it's maybe a family member's health, or it might be, you know, something to do with the house, you need a new boiler or a new roof, or the car's broken down, or something going on at the school, or there's all these external things. You need to take care of your own heartbeat. You need to take care of your own joy. You need to fill yourself up. And you need to book time with yourself. Whether that's just going for a walk, whether that is just going and having a nap. Because trust me, writing and researching and takes it out of you. It's mentally, it's so cerebrally draining a lot of the time that you just need to just go, I need to go for a nap, and be okay with going for a nap. I love a nana nap. Absolutely love it. And during the day, sometimes I'm like, you know what? I've got to step away from the business, because if I don't, I'm like, come on, dogs, let's go. Let's go to the woods. I don't care what else I've got left to do today. I need to go to the woods. I need to go to the beach. I need to go play with the dogs, or just need to go and sleep, because I'm so tired. Because I've either been up late writing, or up at 3 a.m. because I've come up with this great idea and I just have to write it. And then I go back to bed. Don't beat yourself up if your day changes, if your flow, I mean, we're talking about the heartbeat. Go with the flow. You have to have the plan. You have to work the plan, because there's no point having the plan if you're not going to work it and you're not going to achieve what's on it. But you also need to be kind to yourself.
Absolutely. And some of the hints and tips are, you know, block out time, you know, sort of thing, you know, focus time, you know, and what I found is, you know, we've all got these things, you know, turn it off, or go, you know, sort of thing, go and just, so you've just is you and your thoughts, you know, so you've got no distractions, you know, sort of thing, and you can then go away. And if that actually means at this moment in time I'd rather go for a walk or something like that, fine, you know, sort of thing. But as long as you've got that time for yourself, you know, as Dawn was saying, you know, for you to work on whatever it is you need to do, and just focus time. I color code my diary, you know, so I, you know, sort of thing, so I know I don't have to peer and think, oh, what's that meeting? Okay, blue means relax, you know, red means I'm making phone calls, you know, whatever works for you, you know, sort of thing, or actually I've got a particular activity I need to do, I put it in gold or something like that, so I know at a glance of what my diary looks like, you know, and then actually I can say, I haven't put enough time aside for me this week, or for working on my plans. What can give, you know, sort of thing, because I've just looked at what I've supposed to have done. I haven't done it. What can I move around? You know, what can I be flexible about to help me achieve what I want to do? I also find, and again, it doesn't work for everybody. I do, it's just me working on my own at the moment, or you know, sort of thing. I have a little daily stand up with myself, you know, sort of thing. I use Trello, you know, not saying everyone has to use Trello, you know, but I just literally have a pending, in progress, you know, doing, completed, you know, sort of thing. And the amount of satisfaction you get when you've moved things across that, you know, you've actually done, for me, that works for me. I'm not saying it works for everybody, but as long as you have a way of saying, actually, this is what I've got to do today, where am I? And then at the end of the day, I go, what have I actually achieved? You know,
I think that's perfect, because, you know, like when you're writing,
yeah,
people get so caught up on how many words should my book be? How many words should I write a day? Well, you know what? It depends on what you're writing. It depends on, you know, how much research you need to do, because tomorrow you might set yourself a goal that you want to write, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 words a week. You might be in such flow that you've written 2,000 words in one day, and then the next day you've not written anything. Don't beat yourself up about it. Have a weekly target, and actually, if you have done the research, like Sian says, move it across. And another thing that I'm going to go really old school now, I really don't like online calendars. I can't stand them. I like to get my colouring pencils out, and I colour code proper Filofax girl here. With my legal tabs, colour coded. I have yellow for an activity, green for in progress, red is red or pink, because they can never decide which color they want to go. That is for a quote that I can use, or something that I'm, a passage that I'm referencing. I've got orange for further analysis, because I need to think about that a bit more. And then blue is research that needs to be done a bit more. And so again, it's depending on you know what it is. Now, I have that dark blue for the research, because that's about, for me, that represents going deep under the ocean. I also have a light blue coloring pencil. That's Dawny time. That's ocean time. That's just me, just being in my water baby mode. And you really do, you know, make time, like I said, to go for book that massage, and just trust that it's all going to work out just fine. And if you are struggling, then reach out to somebody like myself, who's an author coach, or like with Sian, who's, you know, a project management coach. Yes, you know, there are some people out there that, you know, on my website, that you've got like the frequently asked questions. You know, we're giving away this information because we want to help you. We're not trying to sell to you. We're here just to serve you, because we know what it's like. And so all these little things that people don't tell you. Book a massage with yourself. You know, go and get your, before I start writing a book, I've done all my research, I go and get myself a manicure, because it's a little ritual that I've created. Doesn't really work when I'm sailing, because then I have to get all my nails off, but I still get a nice manicure.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just conscious of time. So we're on the last slide anyway. And then the other two things are thinking about, as Dawn has said, you know, set yourself weekly goals and monthly goals, and, you know, sort of be realistic, you know, but also stretch ones, because actually, if you're having a bloody good week, you know, you can get through a hell of a lot, you know. And that's what I do. I'm like Dawn. I have a weekly and a monthly goal planner, you know, which I like to write through, because I like to sit at night, and I don't use my laptop at night, and I just write. I'll write it in, and then I will transfer it then into an electronic planner, because that's just the way I work. But
and that's great, because then it just embeds that planner into your brain. Do it in your notebook. I mean, I've got my journals here, and putting it in, so the rest of the team know what you're doing and where you are. That's it's just another layer of embedding that plan into, so it becomes a reality.
These will all just keep you on track as well, you know, sort of thing. So, you know, you have your overall plan, and then you have your what I call your activities that keep you on track to going through. So hopefully what we've covered today has answered some of your questions. I think if you go on to the next slide, Dawn, I think that is questions.
I think it is.
Yeah, so if any anyone else has got any other questions, please feel free to ask us now. And then our next slide will tell you how you can contact us if you've got any other questions and things to help.
Hi, I've got a question for Dawn.
Yeah.
How many chapters typically would someone need to write before they start going out to publishers, especially if it's your first book, so you're a complete unknown? Which would we be aiming for?
It really depends on the publisher and the type of book you're doing. Some just want a synopsis. I would start writing. Absolutely, just start writing. Because, you know, agents and publishers, because from your question, I'm guessing you're looking at going out to a traditional publisher rather than a hybrid publisher. Am I correct?
Yes, yeah. So I've got several chapters written, and I'm not sure whether do I just keep going and finish the book and then look for a publisher, or
reach out to them now. I mean, have you got your synopsis ready?
No, that'll be something on my plan.
Yeah, add that to your plan, love. So yeah, make sure you've got a synopsis, you know, and why the book is relevant. So yeah, including what the book is about, why you feel it is relevant, the market. Look at possible revenue streams for yourself, and just mention that, you know, you've already looked at the potential revenue streams. And I'm not just talking, like, I mean, we mentioned here public speaking, you know, journals and workbooks, but look at merchandising. One of the reasons why J.K. Rowling did so well is because Joanne had come up with lots of different ways in which they could actually monetize the book. So she looked at school stationery, she looked at fancy dress parties, she looked at you know, posters, and there was so much merchandise available that it was a big no-brainer for any publisher. I mean, but she got rejected. Be prepared to be rejected by a lot of traditional publishers. Agents as well, you know, they will work, and don't go directly to the publisher. Find an agent first, and they will really only want at most 3 or 4 chapters. But they will really want a strong proposal, and why you feel that. And again, you'll need to tweak it. You'll need to go, okay, well, this is why I feel that this publisher is going to be best for me. But look at it from the publisher's point of view. Why would that publisher want you? Why do the readers want your book? And if you're writing a business textbook, you know, how does that publisher differ to other business publishers? Then, you know, but also do consider the smaller hybrid publishers. And remember that, you know, some of them, they do, like for example, with myself, I expect people to put skin in the game and invest in the publishing services. Because then that way I know that they're absolutely serious, because you are going to be spending a lot of time and money. Even if you're with a traditional publisher, you will be doing a lot of the marketing yourself. You will be doing a lot of the merchandising and PR yourself. They also remember that when you sell your manuscript to them, you're not really getting royalties up front. You're selling your manuscript. You're selling the rights to the publisher. They then own you, or they own that. And when I say own, I'm not always meaning in terms of copyright, but they will be very much dictatorial in how your book is presented and then put out there and edited, because it has to follow their brand. So again, look at those, but put all of that in your synopsis, and never make sure that's less than 2,000 words. That would be the absolute maximum. If you can do it as a 1-pager as well as a 4-pager, roughly 500 words on a page. And also get an author bio together, get all of these things together, and then present it. Because once you've got all of those together, they know who you are and why you're the person who should be writing it. Then they're also going to know what the book is about, how is it going to sell, and what are the revenue incomes. And also remember that if you are selling your manuscript to a traditional publisher, the amount of royalties that you will get will be less than 10%, plus any merchandise that they come up with, you probably won't see a penny of. But if you publish yourself, or you work with a smaller hybrid publisher like myself, then that we don't take any of your royalties, and it's down to you to make as much or as little as you like, and you would own all of the the income from your merchandising and additional product revenue streams. So yeah, think about why that agent should represent you, why the readers want you. So you've got those 4 different angles. So look at it as the quadrants. So instead of having it as imperative, important, non-imperative, not important, think reader, agent, publisher, writer, and then actually look at where in those that all comes together, so that you then get the best synopsis. But again, if you can have that short synopsis on a 1 page for 500 words, and then the longer synopsis of maybe 2,000 words, 4 pages, that gives them a lot more to play with. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. I never even considered a synopsis in that way. So that's great. That almost needs a plan of its own, doesn't it?
Yeah. Which is one of the
I need to add
reasons
it to
why I
our plan.
teamed up with Sian, because I think that people underestimate the amount of planning that goes into a book. They think they can just sit down and write it, but then you've also got to plan for your graphic designer. You've got to plan the time for your editing, because editing, depending on how good a writer you are, editing can take, you know, a couple of weeks through to a few months, because you've got that back and forth. And your editor is going to challenge you and say, well, you can't write that. And you kind of go, well, actually, I can. That's kind of how I've ended up. I started self-publishing because I used to be with a traditional publisher. I fought tooth and nail for 3 years to get my book back from them. And then I made more money in 3 months than I'd made with them in 3 years. And then because I was doing so well and my books were very high quality, people then started approaching me. So that's kind of where I started from with this business 9 years ago. And in 10 years, I've written and helped write 25 books. Many of them have been international bestsellers on the Amazon Red Hot Releases book. And we published to over 150,000 platforms. And that's not realistic. But in Dawn's world, it absolutely is. So these are some of the things you might want to consider: how much money and how much control you want to have over your book. What are your merchandising? How much do you want to make? And are you actually going to be able to make that? Because if your book hasn't sold more than, say, 500 copies in the first month, traditional publishers are just going to drop your book. They want to see, you know, then 3,000. And a lot of the awards, when you're looking at long term, a lot of the awards that you get entered into, like the Nibbies, you have to sell around about 200,000 copies of a book. So it's very unlikely that a small company, a small unpublished author, even somebody like myself, has got 25 books to my name. You know, it's very difficult to sell 200,000 copies of a book, because a lot of the traditional publishers, they will book up space in bookstores 18 months ahead. And it will be like, you'll have the penguin table. And so you might see the a few of them have got the penguin icon on, but then the rest of the books on there will be their other imprints. And they're buying up lots of distribution centers. So again, there's so much that we have to plan and think about. And then you've got the typesetting as well, before we've even got to the bookstore stage. All of this is in there. There's so much planning. And it really does come down to whether you're going to choose a traditional publisher, a hybrid publisher, you know, or somebody, or do it yourself. I'm an entrepreneur. I always give myself permission to do it, and I figure it out and I do it. And I'm not waiting for anybody else to give me permission or tell me that I'm good enough. I know I am, and I give myself permission. And yeah, kind of a renegade, I guess. But
thank you. You've given me some activities there I need to add into our plan first. You never told me about them. Oh, we had a discussion before, so I'll add them in to our plan template. And we will,
like my butcher sheets where I can just.
So I will, and then I will add that in. I will send it out to the attendees of this meeting. So feel free to use it. If you don't want to use it, that's absolutely fine. But it's a freebie from us. Okay, and then finally, we're conscious we've overran. This is how you can contact us if you need, you know, if you found this useful and you need to ask Dawn loads and loads of questions around writing a book, or myself around planning, please feel free to reach out. we both have newsletters, we both have LinkedIn profiles, and you can find us through there.
Yeah, I tend to hang out on LinkedIn mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, LinkedIn is where I hang out. I got fed up seeing kids in school uniforms and people's dinners on the other platforms.
So I hope you found this useful.
Yes. Thank you all so very much for showing up today, for yourself, for your book, for your plans and your success. And as Sian said, if we can help you moving forward, then we'd absolutely love to have you here.